everyone. I'm Alex from Ride with GPS, here for another webinar. Glad to be back. This is our first webinar of 2023. Our last one was in October, where we were able to cover a couple new map views on our website. I'm excited to go over a few new things today on our app and on our website, and happy to answer any questions that you have along the way. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. For anyone who does ask a question today, you'll be entered to win a year-long premium subscription, and I'll get in touch with the winner after the webinar is over. So put those questions in the chat, and either I'll answer them live here in the webinar, or my coworker Kevin, who's helping me out manage the chat, will answer them there for you. So today we're going to be covering our new mobile app map view. We'll cover some new route planner tools and some questions and answers that you have. So let's kick it off with using the new mobile app view on our mobile app. So here on the screen now is the Ride with GPS app, and you'll see my homepage with my stats, any goals or challenges I'm a part of, or a feed of my friends or my own activity. Last year, we introduced a new feature called Explore, which allows you to find public routes that other people have created. And so this was, on our app, the first time we introduced this sort of map view for routes. And it's been a great way to find new routes near you now, or maybe where you're going to be going in the future. So it's a place where you can filter by distance and elevation, surface type, all sorts of things. And so I just wanted to remind you that we do have this map option in the mobile app now, a great way to find new routes. And we like this map type a whole lot. And so we thought, what if we had a way to show that this map type, not for public routes that other people have created, but perhaps for my own routes that I've created, or my own rides that I've recorded and saved to my Ride with GPS account. So we've added those map views in the library. So at the bottom of the page on the app, you can tap Library, and let's go back to our usual view of just the list. And so typically you would just have a list of all the rides you've been on, and that's nice, but it would be a whole lot better if you could see them all on a map at the same time. And so in the upper right, just beneath where it says offline, there's this map icon. And I can tap that and go from our list view to a map view. And you'll see my current location in the blue dot here at our office, but also these green circles with numbers in them, and those represent the starting point of different rides that I've recorded. And so this view, this map view, is available on the rides and the routes tab. So you'll see in the upper left, rides and routes. And so these are for all the rides that I've recorded. And those numbered icons represent where different rides have started. And so I can zoom in and you'll see those numbers split up from larger numbers to smaller numbers as those starting locations become more and more unique the closer I zoom in. And I can tap one of those numbers and see that in red, just a lot of around town rides. But I do record a lot of rides around town, but maybe I wanted to pare down to see just what my longer rides have been. So at the top, I can tap length and see what my rides longer than 25 miles are. And you'll see that those numbers go from a lot to fewer, since I record fewer longer rides than I do my short around town rides, my commutes and errands. And so now I can tap that number and see on the screen in red the different rides I've recorded. I could also scroll that top option over to do elevation. Maybe I want to see not just my rides over 25 miles, but also my rides that have more than a bit of climbing to them. So again, that number pares down to just show my rides over 25 miles and over 3,100 feet of climbing. We'll also show options like moving time or average speed or privacy if I have different rides saved as either public, friends only, or private, just for me. And also by date. Maybe I just wanted to see what I did from what all I did in 2019. From 2019, beginning to end. And you'll see just those rides from January 20 to December 20 that are over 25 miles and also over 3,100 feet of climbing. And these are all presented in reverse chronological order. I could swap it so that they are in sort by date, by name, distance, elevation, and either in ascending or descending order. Another nice thing about this map view is these purple lines on the map, and we've seen these before on our website and covered them here in the webinar previously. And this is my personal heat map, and it shows everywhere that I've ridden with this purple line. And so you'll see, of course, here in town, pretty dense where I do most of my riding, but then as you go out into other stretches outside of Portland or out into the gorge, a bit more of that personal heat. And so it gives a good visual representation of where I've ridden over time. You can, of course, tap the map overlay icon here in the bottom left, the black square, and I can toggle that off if I'd like under Heat Maps, Personal Rides, I could toggle on global heat map and see where other people are riding, not me. And you'll see that in the red line. But if I did want to have that personal heat on, I'll keep that on like this. Now, I have some nice rides out here out in the gorge in Oregon and Washington. And I want to know when or which rides have all gone past a certain point. And so you'll see the darker the purple, the more heat there is, the more times I've ridden that. And so I think you can see, this, say that the top line here, I've ridden that road a couple times. The road just south of that, I think just once or twice. But if I wanted to see exactly which rides I've done on that road, what I can do is press and hold on that point, and we'll inspect that. So inspect being searching what passes through that road. And so I can pull it up and see I've only ridden that road one time, just on this one ride. But if I say I inspect elsewhere, press and hold there, I'll see I've ridden here 3 times. And know that, 2019 I've done it, 2018 did it a couple times. All those times having ridden past that same point. So it's a good way to recollect, the number of times I've ridden on this road. You'll see on one of these I do have some photos, and you'll see those little thumbnails at the bottom, and I could tap to expand and see that ride in full. And of course, tap those photos to view them. This was a fun company camp out back in 2018 that involved some hot weather and bushwhacking. It was a good time. And so if I wanted to, and again, these are only showing my rides above 25 miles. And so I can tap reset and save to show any that are of any distance, not just above 25 miles, and tap the elevation drop down and reset that to show any of my rides, not just those that are over a certain distance. So I'll show you briefly the routes option. So at the top, I can look at my routes tab too, and we have that same map view option for your routes. And rather than showing my personal ride heat in purple, we'll show your personal route heat in green. So that's what all these green lines are the routes that I've planned on my personal account. And just like with your rides, you can inspect by pressing and holding and seeing which of your routes pass through that point. Just like the rides page, you can also pare these down by length. and tap it to open it. And of course, if I wanted to save this offline, I can tap save at the bottom, download for offline. If I wanted to navigate it right now, I would just tap navigate in the bottom left and start getting turn-by-turn voice directions from our mobile app. And since it's saved offline, I can put my phone into airplane mode, make sure that I can minimize battery use. If I'm without cell data, I can always have this map available, the route available, the map tiles available, points of interest available. Or if I wanted to save it or sync it to my Garmin or my Wahoo, I can tap save and save to pinned. If I had already set up my Garmin connection or my Wahoo connection, I can tap save to pinned so that that route would be able to sync to my Garmin or my Wahoo so I can navigate it there as well. I'm going to move on from the mobile app and onto our website. In a previous webinar, we looked at the new map view for your rides and routes on our website. Similar, very similar to that map view that we just looked at on the mobile app. And so rides from your dashboard or from your homepage, from your rides or your routes, you have this show map button. So a very similar view to what you'd have on the mobile app. So here's my personal heat map in purple, and that start location where I can hover and see different rides. But let me go to where I have a few more rides. So out here, those similar distant options to filter by distance and elevation, moving time, date. Now, one new thing since that last webinar is that we've added these photo icons, camera icons. And so these will show any photos I've taken and saved to my rides on my account. And so it doesn't matter if it's from a unique ride. If I've taken photos in the same spot on multiple rides, they'll all show up here on this map to that I can see. And so you'll see when I hover, I can see a preview thumbnail of those photos. And if I click, they'll get a little bigger. And then if I wanted to view it in full, I can just click it and I'll see my photos that all are from that area. And so this is a really a great way to, kind of put together different photos you've taken over time and see them all overlaid with every ride you recorded on Ride with GPS, and just kind of have this big library of, not just your rides, but also, your photo memories as well. And as a And we do have this inspect option. Like on the app, we do also, of course, have that here, so I can see any ride that passes through that point. I can show as a preview here on the map view. And of course, we do have this available for routes. Of course, show map, similar to your rides page. Now, I have a bunch of rides, and one of them, I want to turn into a route. And so I wanted to come out here again, out in the gorge, and I'm going to inspect to see which of these is the one that I wanted to turn into a route. And so I can see I've inspected this point, and I can see that I have 3 different rides that I've been on that go past that point. And this is the one that I want to ride again. So I can click it and click View Ride. And that will open the ride here in full. You'll see those familiar photo icons that I can click and expand because I took photos on this ride and saved them to this ride. But this is just a recording, so it's not always easy to navigate a ride since it doesn't have the cue sheet information. So if I wanted to turn this ride into a route, I can do that here on our website, and I would click More, Open in Route Planner. And I can do this with my own rides. I could also do this with anyone else's rides that are public or shared with me as well. So not just limited to my own ride. So if you happen to find a ride from someone else, you could do the same thing. So I'll open this in Route Planner. Again, I'll click More, Open in Route Planner, and you'll see there's the track I took, but it doesn't have a cue sheet. And so if I were going to navigate this with our mobile app, I wouldn't have any turn-by-turn voice navigation cues. And if I were navigating this on my Garmin or my Wahoo, I may not have turn instructions on the screen of my device. I would just be following the breadcrumb trail on my screen. So I want to add cues. And to do that, I'm going to click Trace and Auto Trace. And this will scan the line for any turns that should be added, cues that should be added. And in just a moment, it had added all of those cues. And so now here you'll see on the left the cue sheet to give me turn-by-turn instructions on this route. Pretty nice. That tracing isn't a new tool. We've had it for a couple of years now, and we're really proud of it. It's been a great way to of course turn rides into routes. But we do have some newer tools that I wanted to get in front of you today that could really enhance your route planning and usage. So many of those tools that are new were added in our right-click menu. And so this is right-clicking has been available for 2 or 3 years now, and it's been a great way to be able to easily modify routes. But more recently, back in December, we added some extra tools there that really elevated it, in my opinion. And so I can right click with my mouse or my trackpad and see all of these options. And some of these are have been around, some of them are new. Those new ones would include make route start here, which we'll cover in a little while, but then also explore and inspect. So I wanted to touch on that last one, inspect, first. Inspect is a word that's come up a number of times already today, and that is asking what passes through this point. And so if I right click here and then inspect routes here, will give you results of all of the public routes and perhaps some rides that pass through this point. And even before I inspected, I can see there's probably people riding here. In fact, I know there are people riding here because there's this heat, this red line that shows the heat of our users recording rides and saving them to their accounts. And so a great way to give back to other people is also to save your own rides to your account so that other people can see that heat, that these roads are being ridden, and when you're creating a new route, you know that it's probably a good rideable place. So I've inspected that point, and I get a list of other routes that pass through that point. I can scroll down, and as I hover, you'll see a preview. Let me zoom out some. You'll see a preview of those routes. I can click one, and it will highlight in blue, and then I'll see two new options, one being add to planner and the other open. If I click open in a new tab, we'll see that route added in full. You'll see any points of interest. And if I wanted to use this as is and not use that route that I had just traced, I could pin it to my account to bookmark it. I don't need to edit this. Now it's saved to my account in my pinned list. Or I could go back to the route planner here where it's still selected in blue, and I could click add to planner. And it will include everything that the original creator of this route saved. So that includes points of interest. You can see that they've edited the route line color, green, yellow, brown, and now it's mine to edit. And what looks like would be fun to me is combining these two routes into one. And so what that would take are a couple steps. I can see that this route is clockwise. My route is counterclockwise. So I'll need to reverse one of these. And so I have this route, and I'd like to reverse it so that once everything is done, this route that I'm going to create goes clockwise. So this route, I traced it, but now I want to reverse it. And all I would need to do here is click reverse route on the right under route tools. It gives me this confirmation. It's going to rebuild it from scratch. Any custom queues will be lost. So I'll click confirm. And pretty quick, now that route is reversed, and now it goes clockwise. But going back to this route that I had found, I had inspected, I know that I won't be able to use all of it if I'm going to combine these two routes together. And so you'll see here, I'll need to combine these two routes by deleting the last half or so of that route. How I'll do that is by using the elevation profile to select what I don't want from this route. So as I hover my cursor over the elevation profile, you'll see that blue dot track along, equaling my progress there. So I'm going to click and drag all of the route that I don't want to keep. So I'll click delete selection, and now that's gone. But when I come back here to that reversed route, I'll need to join it in to this point. So I'll need to delete everything before that by clicking and dragging on the elevation profile, and then click delete selection on the right. So now you'll see that route begins here. And this route begins here and currently ends here. Now, I need to join these two together. And all I need to do is click this green dot, and I can either hover over it, and you'll see this blue line show as a preview. And that blue line preview is a newer feature that was added in December. And so you can get an idea of, if I just click this right now, that's the route they're going to take. So let me do that. And so it takes that route and makes it into a loop. Now, maybe I didn't want to go exactly that way. It looks like there aren't many other options. But just to give you an idea, if I wanted to go this way, oops, it's going to let me, it might not let me. Oh, it's not letting me do that, but I don't have to follow that blue line exactly. I could choose to click any other roads instead of just following that blue line. I don't seem to have many other options right now. That's okay. But now, again, they're joined up into one big loop. And when I'm done, all I need to do is click save. And save it. And now this route is available for me to use, share with my friends, save offline to our app, sync to my Wahoo or my Garmin. This looks good. Now, that's not the only thing that's new. There are more things to show you. I'm going to clear the map. And let's say I don't really even know where to start. But I do know that I'm going to be traveling, and I want to ride when I'm going to this part of Oregon. And Of course, I could reference our global heat map, see where people are riding, but maybe there's some things out here that I don't know about or that the heat map wouldn't necessarily provide to me. Quite like querying what other people are up to, what other rides are, or excuse me, what other routes are available to me. And so instead of using inspect to see what uses a specific point, I can also explore nearby routes. And so this will search all of our public routes in this area. And rather than going, like I mentioned, through a specific point, these are just things that go in this sort of general viewport that you've centered on. So I can select, get a preview, I could open it, but I know that, or then of course add to planner, and I'll do that. But this route starts here in this town, Dayville. I know I'm traveling out here, but I know that I'm not going to be staying in this town. I'm going to be staying over here at this campground. And so we have a nice new tool that helps you change the start of the route rather than from here to any other point on the route. And since this is a loop, it makes it really easy to do that. So all I need to do is find where I'm going to stay, right click on that point, and choose this option, make route start here. And just like that, I have my new starting point with the green marker there, and it follows that loop that was identical to the previous version where it started up here in this town, and now it starts down here. So a really easy way to modify a route to get a new starting point. There are some other nice new right-click features, things like being able to right-click on the elevation profile, and from here I can add a custom queue or a control point. This was previously reserved for right on the map itself, or adding a point of interest on the route. But now I can add that from the elevation profile. I can also select a climb. So let's see what that climb looks like. And I can see that here on just above the highlighted elevation profile, there is the distance of that climb, the amount of ascent and descent, average grade, and then my estimated time. So how long do we predict it would take for me to do this climb? Everyone's estimated time is going to be a little different based on the rides that you've saved to your account. Now, I did mention, deleting the beginning and end of a route. Perhaps I'm not interested in doing that climb. Maybe there's a detour that I want to take. And I can use the elevation profile or just use my cursor to cut out the middle of a route rather than the beginning or the end. And so it looks like there's this loop option, but there's a road that cuts it off. And let me show you how to change the middle of this route. And so, like I showed you before, you can of course use the elevation profile to make a selection and then delete. But there's another option. rather than using the elevation profile, you can first use this selection tools button and then either click right on the route line where you want to begin deletion. Oops, the wrong thing. Let me do that again. Selection tools, and then choose delete selection. All right, now I can choose begin deleting here, end deleting here, and it's selected. I can also do that same option rather than on the route line on the elevation profile. And then delete selection. So that's just an alternative to using the click and drag option on the elevation profile, is using the selection tool and clicking. So now I can delete this selection, and rather than taking that loop to the east, I can just click that green dot to join them, or I could click along the road that I want to follow. There. So we've cut out some of the route in the middle. One thing that I wanted to mention, which is pretty new in the past couple weeks, is how we are showing street, road, and trail names on our map. You may have noticed that we have a new map style, RWGPS cycle, that now, rather than showing the street name on the road, but then when you plan your route over it, we obscured the name of the road, you'll see that we've offset the name of the road with the route line. So you can see John Day Highway, rather than it being covered by the red route line, it's now offset, and you can better identify what road or what trail that is. Let me see if there's another example of that here. Forest Road 24. So that should solve a lot of problems that people have asked about, trying to identify what road that route takes. Now, one thing I didn't mention with Inspect and Explore is that you can tune the results based on what you want. So if I am going to explore what is around here, I get my list of results, and these results are what we consider what are currently the most popular routes. But I also have the option to see my own routes if I had any in this area. I don't have any rides or routes, but you would see yours that are in this area. But I can use this new filter option, which is new in the past 2 months, where I can search a keyword, I can search a length, elevation gain, or then surfaces, paved, unpaved, mostly paved, unpaved, mixed, or all unpaved. And so the more I add, the more refined my result will be. And I can either add to planner or open. So not just limited to what's popular and by any distance and any elevation gain, but you can, of course, refine what results you want to see. So I can inspect routes here and see exactly what passes that point rather than explore, which will be more broad and sort of the general viewport of where you're currently looking. So I think now would be a great time to answer some questions. So if you haven't already, please put those in the chat. Happy to answer any questions that you have. So Kevin's gonna send me over what you'd like to know. Sounds like there's a lot of questions about routing types and routing options. So we have in the route planner the means to change between cycling, driving, and walking. And so each of these will give a different routing profile based on what you've selected. And so here, when I have cycling selected, we will prefer roads, streets, trails that we know that are preferred to bike on because there's either bike lanes or we know that other people are riding in those areas based on popularity. We can see that when you've recorded rides and saved them, we can leverage that to be able to put other people on those same places. If we don't quite have the information that we know this is a bike has designated bike infrastructure. Now, if you have driving selected, it's going to prefer busier roads, may put you on highways, may certainly put you on freeways, places that you wouldn't typically be routed on if you had the cycling option selected. And so if you're planning a route to ride your bike on, probably advisable to use cycling, but we do have users who create routes for non-cycling, whether they're planning a motorcycle trip or a car trip. People do use us for those as well. So driving is an option for that. We also have an option for walking. So maybe you wanted to plan a hike. You can select the hiking option. How this is different than cycling is, yes, while it will prefer quieter streets or more pedestrian-friendly streets, similar to the cycling option, this will be able to route you on trails that are designated as off limits to bikes. It will also be able to route you down the opposite direction of one-way streets. So something to take in mind if you were planning a hike or walk using our route planner. Now, one thing that I know I've mentioned before, but is a great way to kind of get a sense of some new places to ride is overlaying our global heat map with your personal heat map and seeing what might be new to you. So I think especially out here, there are some nice roads that I've yet to ride on, and I could use that inspect option to see some new to me roads. And so I'll inspect that and see see that it does overlay with my personal heat, some existing personal heat, but also some new heat. Now, one thing that is a nice option to have is being able to plan routes simultaneously. So maybe I was creating a route like this, but I wanted to have an alternative that I can plan at the same time. And so using either right click, I can right click to start a new route and begin planning a new route side by side my other route. And I can toggle between them. Let me turn off my global heat map. I can toggle between them and work on them at the same time, comparing the two. And if I wanted to save these, I could add them to a collection so that I could share both routes with one link, or just have them saved in a sort of a folder on my account so I could access them both. So I can click save, and save it. And then click the X to go back to the route planner, and then click save, save as new. And now I can go to my collections page to create a new collection with those two that I just created, or any other public route. Also, of my own rides and routes, or any other public route that part of a club I belong to, or anything else. So there we've got our 3 routes added to this collection. Now, there's been a couple questions about control points and dragging and dropping your route rather than using the delete selection option. So here's a route that I can use to do that. And so one thing that is key to being successful at when you're clicking and dragging your route line is being aware of the control points that are on the route. And control points are these white dots, like you see here, and here, here. And the more control points you have, the more structure or rigidity there is to this route. So let me show you as I click and drag, you'll see it snap to different roads And the more control points or fewer control points I have, the more of that route will be modified. So if I click control point, I can either use that to remove a control point or to add a control point. And so now that I've added these two, only the route line between those two control points will shift as I click and drag. If I removed more control points, as I click and drag this, more of the route will want to change. You see that there's very few control points now, so there's not a lot of rigidity or structure to keep it in place. So be aware when you are clicking and dragging that you've got the right amount of control points to keep that rigidity, to follow the right roads that you want to ride on. You can, of course, also right-click to remove a control point, or you can right-click to add a control point. And of course, anytime you're making route modifications like this, your cue sheet will be updated automatically so that you get the right turn instructions when you're navigating. All right, so we're at an hour, and it's been a great webinar, so I thank you for joining us today. If you do have any additional questions, please get in touch with our support team at info@ridewithgps.com. They're always happy to help any sort of question you have. Thank you for everyone for asking questions, and thank you, Kevin, for answering a lot of those in the chat. I'll be in touch with the raffle winner of who wins. So looking forward to having you at our next webinar when we have some other new features to show you.